Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Blue. Welcome to CastNauts. Today we're going to be looking at another replay from the very big list sent over by CastNauts Rumble. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And let's get right into it. Replays on Serona today. And the teams currently playing are Z-Pan Disciples and patch 2.7. Once again, starting a little bit ahead. Seems to be a running theme with these Rumble replays. So we're going to be starting on the red side as soon as everyone drops in, as per usual. And playing for patch 2.7 in Leon is Pushkin, J. I'm not sure what the rest of that is. For Sentry is Badass Ketchup. And for Penny is Jambo. On Team Z-Pan Disciples, we have Manager playing Genji, Paolo playing Frog, and Body Hunter PT playing Swigs. Penny starting off with a bit of regen early on, just to get that bit of farm up. You know, it makes sense for her to start it off with. Needs to farm a bit. She needs to be able to play safe. Sentry starting off with Circuits of Time. Now that's quite interesting. It shows that he's going to be going for a very aggressive build. As we saw just there, he went for an immediate teleburst right away. Unfortunately, did get cocooned by Genji. But it shows to me that it's going to be a very aggressive build, and that even backs it up with cheese and garlic mids, where Leon may be possible to turn someone into either a explosive decoy or, if anything else, you know, just setting up the teleburst. Right there, Sentry actually dodging Paolo's burst, his dash, with teleburst. So that was actually a really nice move. So we're starting off with Ancient Octane for a bit of AoE. Quite smart. It's a smart decision, especially on middle, where a lot of people tend to congregate around. If anything, just to hold middle, keep this area, farm the worm out. Of course, you know, for a lot of solar and XP early game, it's just a really smart thing to do. Frog going for Hydro Splash, getting a bit of damage out there early. He wants to be quite aggressive with it. Of course he does, because, you know, obviously he has Agent Octane, and, you know, he has Swiggins on the team. He's gonna be locking people down very early. He's gonna be getting the big group stuns early. It's just a good idea to build damage. Same with Genji, getting space hippo maneuver in sense. It's gonna be very useful book, especially against the Sentry who's building teleburst quite early. So a bit of dot on Sentry is gonna really shut down his build, assuming he continues to go for it. Patch 2.7, Team Red, you know what I mean. Controlling mid so far, not farming the worm surprisingly. Unfortunately for Frog, they're getting caught out. Let's have a quick look back. Let's have a quick look back and have a look at this. So Frog jumping down, tries to go for Sentry, gets bursted down by the clone, and unfortunately gets just taken out by the sheer amount of burst coming out of it. They are getting a bit of regen going. He wants to be able to stay out in lane farther. Leon is quite expensive early game, so he's going to have to get his farm going, especially for another stage of cheese and garlic mids, which is only 135. But when you think about it, that's really going to be hard to get if you're not farming the worm, which red team does not seem to be doing at the moment. Swiggins getting a bit of anger damage just to increase his potency while making initiations for his team. Swiggins is going to be their main initiator early game, and it's going to be really up to him to set up a lot of these ganks for Frog. Unfortunately, though, landing the anger just as Sentry was charging his black hole, so that's gonna be a very damaging black hole. Fortunately for blue team, though, it did miss. Blue team seizing control of middle lane, and this is what they really need to be doing early game. They need to be seizing control, they need to be farming up, and they need to be playing as they come to them. Going in is going to be incredibly risky, especially around Sentry, who can be so oppressive and so anti-initiation just due to how black hole works. And especially as Sentry seems to be doing incredibly well with dodging a lot of the bursts with his teleburst. It's going to be really hard for red team to really initiate if Sentry keeps getting these really nice, you know, the really nice telebursts out. If anything, just to dodge all the bursts. Frog trying to worm the two, but unfortunately not getting it. Once again, really another nice teledodge. You know, Sentry is he's doing the job, he's doing the work that he needs to be doing. Unfortunately for Leon, a bit caught out of position. Getting stuck on the blue side is never going to be good, especially against a Frog. But I think he might just get away with it. Yes, he does. Luckily, Frog ended up going to the jungle, so it did not work out in his favor. Sentry picking up ringtones for the depth. That's going to be huge for his team if he can actually land it in a team fight. That's going to shut down this Swedes. That's going to shut down this Frog. It's going to shut down everybody. And it's really good that he's getting it early, especially when he's already building a bit more teleports. It's just unfortunate for Swiggins that Genji did start off with Space Hippo Maneuver in sense. That's going to make it really difficult for him to do his job. If Genji possibly gets Wool Shaw going, maybe a bit of attack speed. Yeah, that's gonna make his job hard. Hell, even what is it called? Storm Drum is gonna make it hard. It's not gonna be as oppressive as say a Wool Shaw, but it's gonna be very annoying for the Sentry to really do anything. Genji trying to go in, but it just barely escaping. Let's have a quick look at this. So Genji's out by himself. He blows a cocoon cooldown, unfortunately. You know, his team's working bad. Swiggins is coming in. He goes in and just gets tongued into a pulse. It's just not good for good old Genji there. Frog picking up slowing. He wants to be able to shut down this Genji early. He wants to be able to set up these. He wants to be able to shut down this Penny, my bad, and this Leon before they can really get going. He wants to be able to set up initiations for his Swiggins. Just, if anything, you know, a dash here, and then suddenly Swiggins goes in, and then, you know, you're in a good situation because that person's probably not going to be able to dodge the incoming anchor. Penny picking up Starstorm statue. It's a pretty standard build to start off with for Penny. She's going for sustain, starts off with just goes for the damage on everything. It just makes sense as to why she would pick it up. You know, it's just an effective item to be picking up in this situation, especially when you have a sentry on your team, which is going to be able to play off your pulses. Genji building a bit of regen early. I'm not sure why, to be honest. Maybe I guess he didn't like the run-in he had up there, and I guess he just wants to be able to survive. Fortunately for Genji, is Doc going to get the kill on good old Penny here? No, she just barely had the regen to stay out of it. Getting regen early was a smart decision for this Penny. Everyone on the blue team now starting to build regen. I guess they really don't want to be bullied out of lane as much as they have been, you know, as these are very oppressive early game, not especially Penny and Sentry. They're going to be able to set up things quite often. No, early game is going to be, you know, it's going to be their domain, especially with the silence pulse. And the silence, like a lot of silence can come out here. You know, Penny can pick up Senti and Rock, and then suddenly, you know, the red team is incredibly hard to initiate while any of them have a cooldown of, because they're stuck in a situation where, okay, well, if we go in, somebody's going to get silenced. Who needs to take the silence? And none of these Nauts can really take a silence that well. If Frog takes a silence, he doesn't have his escape, and he doesn't have his DPS. Same thing with Swiggins over here, you know. It's rare to see, but Swiggins can use his anchor hook to escape, you know. You just become Spider-Man, latch onto the wall, boom, he's gone. Blue team trying to make an initiation on Sentry, but Sentry just ready for it with the black hole and just blocking them off. Setting up a decoy here, if anything, just to block off potential ganks coming from down here. Up there, my apologies. Leon building a bit of tongue damage at the backstab. He really wants to be able to get oppressive. He wants to be able to farm as much as he can. And he really wants to get these early game ganks out of the way. Sentry picking up second stage of Circuits of Time. Makes sense, to be honest. He wants to build that damage and he wants to get going. Possibly expecting to see just straight up damage on teleport. I forget what it's called. Phone book? Something on the body. Penny going for a very beautiful dive here. Like, she's fighting the Genji. No, she's not fighting the Genji. Sorry. She's fighting the Genji in the air with Sentry. Penny loops around and tries to dash him into the black hole. Unfortunately, it just was a smidge too late for Penny to actually land it. Right now, it's been a constant struggle for maintaining mid control. Nobody really farming the worm, surprisingly. Like I say that Leon immediately farms the worm. Go figure. Farming the worm is on Serona. The worm farm is going to be really your domain. It's going to really decide whoever farms the worm more, or counter farms the worm. You know, denying it that's really going to decide who gets the you know, the lead into mid game. Unfortunately for Swiggins, there. Let's go back and rewatch this. Unfortunately for Swiggins, he goes in. No, sorry, he gets tongued in from the Leon. A really nice tongue from Leon, and this like red team was ready for it. You know, they had the pulse, they had the black hole, they were just ready for it. Picking up second stage of blue heart metal, he wants to get a bit more damage in there. I really think he might be one of the builds sustain in this situation. Maybe a bit of tank going. Excuse me. Maybe what is the upgrade called? Royal Toy Castle. The shield when he's not holding anchor. But that also raises the issue that he needs to get rid of his anchor, which can work, to be honest. You know, he can place his anchor down in base, and then he can just run out. He's slightly faster, which he's doing. He is doing. He has put down his anchor. He's going out, taking it out when he gets to the field. It can work, and it can help, to be honest. You know, I still think building a bit of tank might be the best decision. Lets him initiate safer, maybe maxing out regen. Penny picking up Sentient Rocks, and now red team is going to be incredibly hard to initiate onto early game. Especially with the black hole, you know, because the black hole, like at least two of them, and some, you know, that's really good value. Red team picking up the kill on Frog with the Leon backstab. Leon picking up attack speed. He wants to be able to get he wants to get DPS out there. Leon waiting for the Genji to come out and waits accordingly. Let's watch this again. Genji thinks it's safe, but just as Leon's invincibility was about to wear out, he pulls him out and gets a bit of damage out there. Not the greatest damage, but it helped. Red team pushing down blue team's bottom turret. This is a great situation for Swiggins, at least. If he can get the good initiation here, and Frog is ready for it, this can be huge for his team. As we just see here, Swiggins going down, picking out the Sentry, who is low at health, getting harassed by the Genji. And Genji harassment is going to be really big during this opening phase. Until they get their setup mid-games, it's going to be all about harass from the Genji, all about the harass from the Frog, and all about the initiations from the Sentry. It's going to be quite interesting to see where this goes. What red team really needs to be focusing on right now is more damage, more initiation, and more ways to, you know, win team fights. You know, it's all about the team fights as of currently. Leon picking up Electrifier, not entirely sure why, but I can imagine there would be a reason for it in the form of he wants to be able to make sure that anybody that goes in the black hole is staying in the black hole, and that can really be effective, assuming somebody buys BKM. Frog has already picked up boots. That's going to be huge from Sentry, unfortunately, getting Cocoon, and just, the entire blue team was just ready to set up for it. Leon looping them around and actually getting out quite effectively. So, well played on the Leon's part. Sentry picking up drive over schools and dog tags. He wants to be able to, he wants to get a bit of area denial going, and I don't blame him, to be honest. You know, reclaiming control of mid is going to be very important for their team, because it gives them access to the worm, as I've said before. Worm farming is really what it's about on this map, and it's going to be about that until it's about the late mid game. Red team actually lost their footing, surprisingly, mostly due to that really nice, as we saw up here, that very good Sentry denial up here. You know, like Sentry goes up and then boom, he ain't coming back down. Swiggins taking up right attack castle. He wants to get a bit of tank going, picks up regen, and it's just gonna be good for his. It's just gonna be good for his initiation. Like, you know, like if you don't know, Swiggins does move faster while he's not holding his anchor. So putting down your anchor in base, you move slightly faster, you get out of the lane faster, and then you pick it up and then initiate with it accordingly whenever you need it. The only downside is you do less damage with your AA, but it does become range, so it's a trade-off. Genji picking up spiritual cooking. This is going to be huge for his team. You know, he's going to be able to actually like help his team out a lot during this, especially Frog with his low base health. Frog has not built any sort of tank yet. You know, no, like the closest thing he's got is one rank of Medican, so he doesn't have any heal over time. He doesn't have any pills. He doesn't have any health, even cooldown dash in some situations, but that's only if you're using it more as a dodging tool more than a connection to him. And unfortunately for Red Team, this may be a wipe. Fortunately for the Leon, Swiggins did actually miss the anchor, so it's okay. Penny picking up Spider-Bird Collector Badge. She wants to get a bit more range poke, and I think this is where her build is really going to go down. As we can see, Blue Team has regained control just due to how much CC protection they're going to go. Well, more so, living power, you know, tanking wise, they have what they need. You know, Genji, he's already there with the spiritual cooking. Frog, he's getting a bit there with the Medican. Ice Cube is going to be a big for him. It's going to allow him to actually get away from these risky situations. Swiggins with Royal Toy Castle and a little bit of regen mixed in there. They're building what they need in order to survive Red Team's incredibly oppressive start. And now Frog picking up can't touch this. That's going to be huge for him, even more so if he gets something like Tweeters, which is going to be just allow him to be so much more oppressive with his NATO. Unfortunately for Swiggins there, Genji getting the really bad timing on the Cocoon. Just wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. Penny picking up a bit of pills. She wants a bit of tank going. She wants to be able to get a bit more sustained power, especially against this Frog, who's going to be able to do a lot of damage now. He has both stages of higher splash, and even more so that he's got his Hammer Pants to get a bit of stun. Hammer Pants in this situation is really good, despite the map being quite open. It has a lot of frequent travel routes, so it's quite easy to predict where things are going to be coming up here, around here, and then just in this general area of the map. Especially in here when you can't even see them. It's just going to be useful for Frog to be able to get these Hammer Pants procs, and it's going to be even more so useful when Genji starts landing these more cocoons in these more clumped up team fights that we're going to see start happening soon, especially now that Swiggins has gotten his second stage of Royal Toy Castle, allowing him to be even more in your face without humble to anchor. As you can see here, like, you know, he runs out and he's ready with the anchor to get into these fights. Taking Alien Sweetener, that's going to increase the base health of his anchor on the ground, and that's really good for him, especially with Leon having a bit of ton damage going in here, and even more so with drive over skulls. Like, it's just going to make his anchor's life a lot harder. Unfortunately, Genji landing the cocoon after Swiggins has already used his initiation on him. I'm not sure if he landed the anchor or not. I didn't actually see. All I heard was the pull sound.
Somebody get rid of him.
So yeah, what would I recommend Blue Team do in this situation to really get in there? They need to solidify their area. Genji picking up Bull Shot, and that's going to be huge for dealing with the Sentry, just due to how much pressure he's going to be able to put on with Dot, and even more so denying most of his builds with Teleburst. Genji also picking up the Caterpillar. He really wants to be able to give his team the support they need during team fights, and that's really the correct move for Genji in this situation. He needs to be able to keep it up with his team. He needs to be able to keep his team in check, and he also needs to be able to make sure that the enemy team don't have the options they have in fights. So while the options that Blue Team has that the Red Team doesn't, well, they have the entirety of Blessing, which is going to be huge for their team, especially with Spiritual Cooking and the Caterpillar, which is just going to make them incredibly difficult to engage in once Genji gets a second stage. Even more so, not even more so. It's already quite an impressive force to engage into, just due to how these two upgrades just work well together, and especially on Knots like Swiggins, who already has Royal Toy Castle. So it's gonna make Swiggins a really good frontliner for initiations, followed by a Genji. I imagine we might see Can't Touch this here just to give Swiggins a bit more pushing power out of it. And I don't mean pushing in the sense of pushing down a lane. I mean more sense of actually bullying his opponents out of lane, or even just catching up to fights that he has no business getting into. Unfortunately, though, getting pulled back in, so he's gonna have to back off and maybe regen a bit of health. Red team really needs to be able to take, if Red team wants to take control of this area again, you know, they have sadly been pushed back by the very oppressive force they got going on from the Genji's poke and from the Frog's very good damage output he's got going on. And even more so, if they wanted to go in, they'd have to probably go through Swiggins in most situations. And Swiggins is going to be an incredible force to deal with, especially now that he has Royal Sword Castle maxed out. And even more so with Blessing. If Red Team wants to get out of it, they really need to be able to find a way to deal with this Genji. And one of the few ways they're going to be able to do that is just by building more damage. But unfortunately, they really do need to tank as well. So they're kind of stuck in a bad situation where they need the tank, but they also need the damage to get said tank. Sentry bigging up Camouflage, and I really don't agree with the situation. Like, he's more so setting it up for possible drops and more so possible initiations off of the droid push, but it's really not what he needs right now. I really think maybe a bit of damage would have gone a long way for him in this situation. You know, building into, you know, Camouflage, it's more of a camping play style. Not camping play style, get it because of tent, no. It's gonna be good for him if he had control of mid and he was able to actually you know, camp up their mine up, not camp, you know what I mean. You know, get up their side of the lane, but using it as a defensive purpose, it's just not going to be useful enough, unfortunately. Penny picking up first stage of bug jars, she's gonna, so Penny's going for more of an offensive route on this. She wants to be able to help her team out in team fights by just having her pull skew more for them, and that's going to be huge for them if she actually gets a chance to use it effectively with a Sentry Black Hole. But unfortunately, Sentry not really having a great option, you know. Like, what is his option? Well, his option is really just try and mine up the area that he's defending and hope for the best, which is really bad for Genji. Maybe he wants to consider Night Vision Spy Watch just so he can get a bit more harassment. You know, he wants to be able to, you know, get a bit I'm sorry, I'm walking all over my words. But, you know, he wants to get in there a bit easier. Like, you know, getting that Night Vision Spy Watch can be the surprise that the enemy team may not expect. Of course, you know, past that, it's going to be expected. You know, you see Night Vision Spy Watch once, you're probably going to, you know, try and play around it. But unfortunately for Leon here, let's have a quick look back and see what went wrong for Leon. He engages into the Swiggins, and his team was just not ready for it. One more time for the fans at home. I've lost Leon. There we go. So Leon comes in. He tries to get the initiation onto the Swiggins, but blue team was ready for it. They were way more clumped together than his team was, and unfortunately, it's going to be in the end of Leon due to Swiggins picking up Dynamic Spoon, and just due to the entire blue team collapsing on it. Look, on the bright side, though, Sentry getting the good black hole, but it just wasn't enough as Penny did get Cocoon, so she wasn't able to capitalize on it. And that's really the unfortunate state of affairs. That might have been a really good opportunity for Red Team to be able to push out again, but the good Cocoon from the Genji really did just shut it down. And this is why Genji is really important to take down in a team fight, or even for to like harass him that he won't be even in the team fight in the first place. It's because he has the power to really shut down any sort of comeback a team has by eliminating one member of the enemy team. Leon going in for a gank, and it's just not good enough, to be honest. He's like Leon, he tries to go in and just cocooned immediately. Unfortunately, not swinging the Genji, and even he did. It was a bad situation to go into solo. Let's have a look at this again. So Genji comes down, he sees the Super Droid and 3 of them. He tries to go in. Penny not ready with no charges at all. Really should have waited for Penny to get maybe a couple of charges in there. That way she could have tried to play off it. But unfortunately for her, she just didn't have the charges ready. Leon picking up Stretchy Tongue and BKM. BKM in this situation does make sense if it worked against Genji's Cocoon, which I believe it currently doesn't, so it's kind of a wasted upgrade. I don't know if it affects Anchor. I actually don't. Does it say? It doesn't. So I don't know if it actually affects Anchor. This is one of the few things that I don't know if BKM affects or not. Kind of like how I get confused if it affects gates and stuff, but I do know it doesn't. But yeah, so in this situation, it would make sense if Genji's Cocoon was affected by it currently, but unfortunately it is not, despite what it says. Genji picking up prefab Cocoon, and that's going to be huge for his pushing power. Let's get back a bit. Now, what actually happened to blue team? Because I was explaining something about. So Sentry comes in, and he gets the good initiation off with Penny and the black hole, and this is what red team really needs to be focusing on more. Getting the black holes. Let's one more time view this. So Sentry comes in from behind, charges black hole, gets the burst off with the silence, so Genji cannot cocoon him in the face, and then goes straight for it. Like Penny, she just jumps in, goes buck wild on the Frog and Genji, and it just takes them down effectively. That is something that really needs to be, you know, more so considered when it comes to having a Sentry versus a Genji. You know, you have the good burst, and if you can try, and if you think about surprise, well, it's gonna be really useful for your team to do so. Swiggin's picking up Dynamic Spoon, and that's going to be huge for his team, assuming that they don't get Cocoon while having it. Dynamic Spoon is an upgrade that's very, very useful for a lot of situations. What it does is, every time you hook somebody down, when the chain breaks, it does damage to them. You know, it deals a burst damage. So in this case, it does 200 damage whenever the chain breaks. I believe it counts also if the chain is destroyed. Such a picking up yellow king pages. He wants to get the burst going, and I don't blame him. It worked out so effectively last time in this team fight over here. The gank from him was excellent. It really set up Penny to go book wild on the Genji and Frog. So it was an effective means, and they want to try and capitalize on it again, and I don't blame them. It's really what they need to be focusing on right now. I still suggest Night Vision Spy Watch in this situation. Hell, maybe even Boots, just so he has a bit more mobility when it comes to ganking. Like, say, I'm going to pause the replay here, and I'm going to explain this. So, what we saw was, Sentry came up here, Genji and Frog were here, Swiggins was down on the bottom. He saw that Sentry was coming in. He decided to bail. Unfortunately for Genji, he did unfortunately get silenced, along with the Black Hole. So why did that work? Well, Sentry caught him off surprise. Now, Sentry can't always catch people off surprise. He's quite loud, to be fair, and he's also quite a territorial nut. You know, you kind of know where his range of influence is going to be at most times. So what do you do in this situation? Well, essentially, you want to actually be able to take people by surprise, and having Night Vision Spy Watch, or even like as an initiation tool, to jump down here, he might have been able to actually catch the Swiggins, assuming he came in a bit later while they were all mostly grouped around this area before they kind of split off into two separate groups. It's the same reason why Boots on Sentry can actually be quite effective. You know, taking people by surprise as Sentry, it's a really powerful thing to do as Sentry. Taking people by surprise can really help your team out in most team fights that use stars. Frog picking up second stage of Hammer Pans, we've been over already. It's just going to be useful for his team to do, especially when they're linked down or they're cocooned down. It's just going to be more ways for blue team to deal damage to them, and even more so, just keep red team in check in team fights. Penny maxing out bug jars is going to be really useful for her team. Maybe she wants to get Boots now at this point, maybe just so she has a bit more mobility when it comes to actually ganking or getting into fights for her team. Picking up second stage of Ice Cubes on Frog here. That's going to be really useful for his team as well. Basically, what blue team has going for them is they have a lot of lockdown. You know, they have the stun from Hammer Pans, they also have the Ice Cubes, and that's what's on Frog. Genji has the amazing shutdown power of Cocoon, and as does Swiggins with his Anchor. It's just red team is incredibly difficult to approach now at this point in the game, just due to how much CC they possess and how much lockdown they can have in a team fight. While red team is more an offensive beast, they really need to be able to deal with the CC that's coming out. And unfortunately, in most situations, BKM is not going to really deal with it outside of maybe dealing with the occasional slow or stun from Hammer Pants or Ice Cubes. So it's a really interesting situation that red team is actually caught in, where they need to be able to deal with the CC, but unable to deal with the CC, nothing they can really do deals with it outside of straight up CC immunity that I don't believe any of them possess. Leon picking up Pinot Noir, he wants to be able to keep it up, he wants to be able to get his ganks out, he wants to be able to stay in lane for as long as possible. Unfortunately for Leon, having to warp back because the blue team did just take down the turret without any droids, which is an unfortunate state of affair. And I just noticed this is bug sliding, that's fun. So it's this is a very hard comp to engage into for red team, as they don't really have any initiations that can really do it, bar Sentry. And getting Sentry into position is against this sort of team, where he would have to basically drop down for most situations, or come out of a beacon that he plays out beforehand, but he can't because he already has, because, you know, he's focusing more on using his beacon for the initiation, so he really has to take blue team by surprise in order to really get in there. And that's really where red team fell apart. You know, it was good early game because blue team didn't really have any of the necessary tools to deal with it, but as time went on, again, you got Spirits of Cooking, Swiggins did get Royal Castle, and hell, even getting Can't Touch This was effective as hell for blue team. Building into tank early on blue team, I don't think would have been the right idea, as they were going out. Right, they started out by getting the damage, so they wanted to get the harass out early. They wanted to be able to make sure the setups were ready for when they did build tank to shut down red team. You know, the sacrificing their early game a bit was actually the smart decision on their part, and I applaud them for it. That was CastNauts. I really hope you've learned something today. If you have any replays that you'd like to send in for the show, send them to the email down below. I've been Blue, and thanks for watching.